Hey baby, welcome to In Too Deep. I'm Jack Rowland. Today I'm joined by the hilarious, the cosmic, the delightful Ramin Nazer. Ramin is an LA-based comedian, host of the Rainbow Brainskull podcast, co-host of the Mind Under Matter podcast, and an incredible prolific psychedelic artist. Ramin's beautiful illustrations are trippy, electric, technicolored wisdom bombs, each one infused with either a timely spiritual teaching, a positive pondering, or some straight-up third-eye DMT shit. On top of all that, he's such an infectiously positive and fun guy. Get a bit of Rainbow Brainskull onto your podcast rotation, and of course Mind Under Matter, which is his new podcast with comedian and professional mind expander Shane Moss. Alright, let's get deep with Nazer of the Ramin variety. Ramin Nazer.
Is there a point to all this?
I think we're getting in too deep. You don't apply. Bad luck.
Well, I have one speed, I have one gear. Go, 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 go.
I'll tell you when we're getting in too deep, too deep, too deep.
Hey.
Hey Ramin, how are you?
Doing well.
Fantastic.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, man. I feel like sometimes I feel like podcasting is like speed dating for friends or something. I don't know.
It is. Oh man, I got to tell you something real quick. So I put on your podcast because I like to do some due diligence and see what the show is about. And then I pick one at random, and then the intro is Todd Nickerson is a pedophile. And then I'm like, this guy is hilarious. What's he going to say for my intro? And then, you listen more and it's like, oh, it's this guy that's the pedophile that doesn't molest children. And that's his whole identity, which if it was me, I think that what a brave guy. He doesn't even have a hand too, but I would choose like 100,000 things before I would list that. I'd be like, I'm a bass player. I'm a gardener. Yeah. I'm a pancake maker. I'm a hiker. I would just keep going forever, but
not the best thing to lead with. Hey,
no, but that shows like this is in too deep. You're going deep. You've got John McAfee on here. You've got the pedophile guy. You've got like, and I'm worried about having a comedian that says cunt or something, and then you're just going all out there.
I've had our buddy Shane on as well, man. That was
yeah. He loves you. He was saying such good things about you. I was like, slow down. No one's that great. He's like, this guy's the best. He's the best artist. I love his work. It's so surreal. He's the best guy, and on and on. So Shane loves you.
Oh, that's so kind. I just had the last guest I just had, this awesome artist Adrian Cox. He after just said, yeah, I just checked out your past episodes before I jumped on, and he was pretty convinced I was a QAnon guy because I'm just like fascinated with like the phenomenon of QAnon and just like the madness of these conspiracy theories. But yeah, I can imagine some of my past guests, like if you haven't actually heard, you might think I'm a red-pilled.
It's easy to put you in a box. Yeah. You just scroll through the guests, but I appreciate that. I like that you hold space for topics that other people don't even want to touch in conversation, let alone have a guest talk about it. So
totally right.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the QAnon crowd to start labeling me a pedophile enabler since since Todd Nickerson. But hey, yet to I don't think the reach is that big yet, so I'm safe. I can still say whatever I want.
What made you? Were you just fascinated by this individual? Because I've never heard of this movement, this type of person. I assumed there was such a thing. I'd never thought about it, but maybe same for everything. Not to put them all in the same category, but perhaps there are people that really want to kill as well. But they're like, I know killing is wrong. I'm not going to kill, but I am a killer. I'm a
I spoke to a cannibal as well. I spoke to a cannibal once, and that was pretty. Man, it's a weird feeling when you're talking to someone that you know is like done the most disgusting things. I think we kind of probably got a similar approach. You want to come at it with some sense of compassion, but you do have to kind of, I don't want to run the risk of being too compassionate. Save your compassion for those who haven't killed and eaten human flesh.
Yeah, that's probably a criticism you get a lot of. Like, there's all these actual people that could deserve a platform, and then you're giving a platform to this guy, which people are very picky about who gets platformed and stuff, but it's your show, so you should do what you like with it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I apologize for not being as interesting as a cannibal, pedophile, Nazi, recreational whale torturer.
Well, I think this has actually become really timely because, things, some topics were getting a little heavy. I just want to lighten things up, get back to the smiles and the spirituality and all the good vibes that that people have to offer. It's been on quite a tangent.
Yeah. I mean, in times when that is not in vogue or whatever, then that's the time you should really be appreciating it, because now it's not oversaturated. You're holding the positivity space, the ultra accepting space.
Yeah. Ramin, I found you, as we just kind of said, I found you recently, like April, I think, is when you started Mind Under Matter podcast with Shane. So I kind of, discovered you through that. But it's so awesome when you like discover someone new that you didn't know exist. And then you realize that there's a whole back catalog of all the awesome things that I've never like seen. So it's just been like your work has been a really fun, uplifting rabbit hole to kind of go down. It's kind of like reminded me of the first time I discovered Duncan or something, Duncan Trussell.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I always think about who I'm missing. Who do I not know about that I'm going to learn about in 10 years and be like, they were active right now and I just don't know about them for whatever reason.
Totally.
They're perhaps making their best work right now. My favorite album is probably right now made by someone. I'm not going to hear about it.
I know, right? I found like I was constantly, when I was like discovering all these new people like McKenna or Alan Watts or I don't know, whoever, every single time I discover them, I would then try and find out whether they're alive. Can I actually interact with this individual? Nope, they're dead. Nope, they're dead. So
yeah,
Ram Dass would be the only exception of that. But
no, Ram Dass is dead now. But maybe you caught him before he died.
I caught him before he died. I got in there.
When did you catch him? When did you catch old Dick Alpert?
Oh yeah, Dickie Alp. I think, oh man, when was it? It was probably like 5 years ago now. Went over to Maui and basked in the waters of love, which was really, really wonderful. I had no idea what to expect. I thought I could have just been like, I didn't know if it was still trippy. I didn't know if it was like just going to be like a rich old people's kind of retreat, just like
a little bit of both, right?
Exactly, all of the above. But there's kind
old
of like
people and Duncan. I guess Duncan's starting to get a little gray too, so he's replacing that.
Yeah, totally. It's I kind of listened to like the one that the podcast that you and Duncan had recently. Oh, maybe it was a while ago, and you're kind of asking him about his like polygamy stuff, and he's just like, "Oh, my old ass." I'm like, "Yeah, he'd probably be getting on now." Hey, still into that. I love it. He's such a gem. But
yeah. I mean, who doesn't love Duncan, right? Even though a lot of people who used to be Rogan fans who have left Rogan for whatever reason. I mean, there's lots of reasons to leave Rogan, of course. But the people that don't like Rogan anymore are still, from what I've seen, they're like, well, yeah, I still like Duncan though. Duncan is still good, or I'll still tune into a Duncan episode. So he transcends even the associations they might not like. But people are too fickle now. Like, just it's so quick to put people into a bad bin,
Yeah, totally.
Not like someone, put them in there.
There are certain people though that you kind of you meet, and they're so uplifting and positive that if I meet someone who doesn't like them, I kind of take that as a red flag. Like, okay, that person's got something they're not dealing with. If you don't like someone like Duncan, or I've got a couple of other friends that are just like they choose to only see the good in people, and if you meet someone that has a problem with that, I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
totally. You never ended up getting over to Maui, and because I've heard quite a few of your podcasts. You talk about Ram Dass and stuff, and you seem like you've got a lot of similar interests to myself.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we watch a lot of the same YouTube talks, and we probably have the same YouTube ads and stuff like that. We probably how much in common. We don't really show each other because we watch so much content now, all of us, like through YouTube, podcasting, social media, and the algorithm affects it, thus hits us with different ads and things. And we maybe not feel alone, but you don't get to really talk about it with lots of people because it's too much. So I'd be interested in seeing how much is crossed over. But yeah, I love the Ram Dass, Alan Watts, Terence McKenna, Sharon Salzberg, Abraham Hicks, whatever. If you've got a teaching, I want it, as Ram Dass would say. Or even not a teaching, just a character, a little quirk in a character. I just kind of like that. Like I'll watch some Ben Shapiro, even though I don't like Ben Shapiro's politics, but I just want to learn about a guy that talks like this. I want to try to learn faster and then faster and faster. And you can talk faster and it doesn't have to be anything. It can just be facts. You have all the facts. I have all the facts. You have none of the facts. I win.
He's like a full guilty pleasure of mine, Ben Shapiro, because it's like, and I'd say like one thing that I kind of like, if not respect, is like he's kind of willing to talk with like anyone. Like I just watched one podcast with him and Russell Brand. I was like, pretty much, I'm done with Shapiro. Like, I pretty much hate everything he has to say. I'm like, ooh, him and Russell Brand. How the fuck's that going to go down? Just
Russell's a great interview. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy as well. I think he's, haven't had anything to do with him, but I like what he's all about.
Yeah, and we've watched the arc of. I mean, we're all like still who we were a long time ago. You can't really fully shed who you are, but he's kind of gone through this arc of the superstar, egomaniac, narcissist to the revolution guy to the more Ram Dass guy. Like now he's kind of become the wise old sage father.
Yeah.
It's a fun arc.
I feel like he's still aware of that though. The second you become aware of like wanting to be, a spiritual teacher or somewhat, that's a kind of an ego trap in itself, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. That's why I never claimed to be that. But then maybe not claiming to be anything is its own cop-out. Like I have no message, I have no agenda. I'm not trying to get a thing out there that everyone needs to know. Just kind of saying stuff.
Yep. That was like another kind of thing that I noticed in the whole Ram Dass community, which I absolutely love. And I'm dying to get back there. But everyone's got their spiritual name. So, everyone's like Lakshman or Rahishi.
Lakshmi, Hander, Raghu Marcus. Raghu's had that name for a while. It must be weird going back because it is kind of like Queen without Freddie Mercury. It's still good. You've got Brian May and Roger Taylor and that new guy who's like 20 years old or whatever. And I'm sure he's great, but it ain't Freddie.
Yeah.
Freddie's not there anymore.
Totally.
It was about Freddie.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Hawaii is great, though. I mean, Hawaii with the Ben Shapiro convention would probably still be fun.
Ben Shapiro retreats in Maui. Fuck.
Yeah.
They booked them right next door to the Ram Dass ones. Everyone has to
I would
mingle.
go to both. I would go to both and tell nobody.
Sharing the same lunch facilities. That would be great. Hey, speaking of Ram Dass, man, like, I've been looking through, so much of your art, kind of your, I don't know. I feel like saying comics is like a terrible word. Your illustrations, they always have like a message, but it really kind of clicked with me that they're almost like a modern Be Here Now, kind of like. If you kind of strung them all together, they could just, they all have these like beautiful poetic meanings or, interesting observations, but it's more now. It's more neon. It's more like electric and rainbow, and it's like grabbing your attention more than the muted pages of Be Here Now. It's very
yeah. I get that.
Was that an influence kind of you making the work that you make?
Not really. I mean, it's tough to say when they coincided. Probably as time went on, it was. And with Be Here Now, I own Be Here Now. I own Polishing the Mirror, being Ram Dass. I think a couple other Ram Dass books. But I was way more about the story part of the Be Here Now than the images. The images are super cool and everything, and they've got their own style, and they're on that lunch bag paper, recycled kind of looking paper. But a lot of them are also hard to follow because the text spirals forever, and there's a lot going on. So I always appreciated those, but I don't think it was an influence in that, I want to make stuff like that now. It was more the message of Ram Dass was was probably deeply ingrained, and then it kind of came through in that way.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't even, if you were to post a page from Be Here Now, it probably wouldn't get as much engagement because it requires you to really focus and spend time with it. And social media is all about the now, like 15-second video with the twerk and the most recent hit song. And you're also frying an egg on your tits and stuff. And you got to just keep it going. What else you got? Okay, that kept my attention for 5 seconds. What else? What else?
Yeah.
Or it's something that at least is very salient, saturated, something that I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, like with all the text kind of going everywhere, because so many of his lectures and things, he's always was always talking about like the explosion of success of Be Here Now, and it resonated with everyone. But I was the same with you. Like I enjoyed I enjoyed it, but it was kind of, I didn't get the message. The message didn't like sink in. Like the lectures of Ram Dass really kind of would grab me, and sometimes even like, man, I've even been brought to tears on some of like Ram Dass's old talks. But yeah, it's kind of like too hard to get for me to really get the feels from that book. Unfortunately, I mean, love the book; it's awesome. But some forms of teachings, like I think Ram Dass reads way better. Lectures from '60s up until like, I hate to say, but up until like his stroke. That was like a really great way to kind of download that message from the stroke from the stroke onwards is kind of for the people who are already aware, I guess, just because the speech is slowed down and the kind of the story's been established, I suppose.
Yeah, you don't introduce someone with post-stroke Ram Dass. That's a bad move.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I mean, I don't have an example in the top of my head, but there is a lot of good stuff in stroke Ram Dass, but not. He's not like the crazy shredder he was. Didn't have the same gift of gab, and someone described it as in one of those documentaries. I think it's called Fierce Grace, where they said Ram Dass used to be a master of the one-liner and the two-liner and the three-liner, and now he's taken the pregnant pause to another dimension.
Yeah.
And as his brain was, going through whatever it was going through, then he described it as words are concepts, words are clothes that we use to decorate concepts to send them out in the world. And now closet closed. So he was describing how he cannot describe shit anymore. And I thought, what a beautiful way to describe the inability to describe shit, is that your closet is closed and words are just clothing that you use to decorate concepts.
I'm just impressed that you're able to like not just do a Ram Dass impression, but a later in life Ram Dass impression. That was
Old Ram Dass, the soul. The soul is what Maharaji said is the beloved. You just pause and just like you do a little randomizer in your head. Say Maharaji, beloved, soul, and awareness.
Yeah,
love.
The original Ram Dass was the original
Awareness.
Clickbait guy. Just all the buzzwords, all the.
Yeah, it's crazy that he made it to 2019, I think, is when he died.
Yeah.
And there's videos of him in the 60s with gray beard hair and like he's bald, and he'd already lived the whole life of, had a Cessna airplane, a Mercedes Benz, a Triumph motorcycle. He had 18 research assistants. He was going to orgies every day and like having dance parties and doing LSD with Tim Leary in Mexico. And that's like, he lived more than I did by 1960. And then he has this whole other arc of the teacher, then the 80s phase where he's on Oprah and he's wearing a pink sweatshirt and talking about aging. And then there's the stroke phase, and he's got more phases than David Bowie and Prince and a lot of these guys that are, changing their ego a lot.
Totally.
Changing their alter ego a lot. So he had a great run. And I think that was his message. Like, what's it going to be like to hold on to this vessel as long as I can, to where I need 16 helpers to put me into the pool and I float, and then people think I'm dead, but I'm not dead.
I think that's one of the things that's always just like been so attractive, like the story to me, and is like the complete imperfections in it all. Like you say, like he was going to orgies and stuff. He was like, he would have been a real wild card, I imagine. You know, the lectures, you get to see polished, nice, you know, he's prepared a speech kind of thing. But I mean, some of the stories from that mansion, man, like, I mean, I've had ketamine benders and people's houses at kick-ons after parties, and they get pretty gross. And I have no reason that they wouldn't have been any different, if not worse, back then.
Yeah, they knew how to live back then. We're kind of tame now.
Yeah.
Or maybe not really. People are doing poppers and like the pornography has exploded beyond our wildest dreams times 10. Like, I think 2002 it exploded beyond our wildest dreams, and now we're in some completely other fractal dimension of pornography. But you know, just the way that people were just smoking cigarettes on air all day, just in the grocery store smoking cigarettes. It was just, the pre-internet world was a more party world. So when they actually partied, it was probably even more nuts. You hear stories of, you know, back to Freddie Mercury I brought up before, like the stories of with little people, dwarves, whatever the correct PC word is, with cocaine on their heads that they would just snort as they walked by. And that was the least interesting thing about the party. So he would get down, Ram Dass got down, and we all salute him for it.
Absolutely. Did you hear that? I think Sacha Baron Cohen was meant to play the Freddie Mercury in the Queen film, but
do you know why he didn't?
Because he wanted to explore those stories. He wanted, is that right? Yeah, he wanted to get the freaky
that was
side.
pretty much why the way he described it was, you know, he wanted to tell those stories, and then Brian May was saying that halfway through, Freddie dies, and then we get to see what happens to the band afterwards, like how the story afterwards. And Sasha was like, what do you mean the story afterwards? That's the ending, dude. But I get it. I mean, Brian May is amazing, and like, why should he have to, you know, describe himself as like that's when it ended? Yeah. If it was me personally, I'm a bigger fan of bands staying as the lineup they are, at least when it's a single unit, not when it's, you know, Prince, Frank Zappa, David Bowie. Those were not bands. Those were band leaders that would have different ensembles of musicians. But when you're a band, then it feels like you should keep that lineup the same or change the name if the key player leaves it. Yeah. But then again, Van Halen didn't do that. So there you go.
I mean, no matter how much success Dave Grohl has had in all his different like band reincarnations, he's done so much more than like Kurt Cobain was ever capable of. But he's always going to be the guy from Nirvana for me. I don't know why. That's just me, though. You know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, some people don't even know that. And I remember when I discovered it, I'm looking on the inside of Nevermind and being like, "What? That?" And then it all clicks.
Oh, really? Yep.
Yeah, this is in the 90s, I think, just right about when, and there was no internet back then, so you just kind of knew what you knew based on what print objects you owned or what your friends told you. But yeah, Dave Grohl has definitely written more, but you know, true Kurt fans will always say like, well, yeah, one Kurt song is better than 100 Foo Fighters songs.
Right.
But depending on your taste. That's why it's great that there's both. You never have to pick. It's weird how we always like to pick stuff. Like, no, this was the greatest. Like, you don't have to pick. You can listen to both simultaneously if you want. Totally. Maybe our kids will. Maybe our kids will be so oversaturated that they listen to 8 songs at the same time.
Yeah. Totally. Just with Neuralink just plugged in with like multiple tracks just fucking blaring. Just that's their rebellion. Instead of turning the music up in the house.
Do you remember Back to the Future 2 with Marty McFly's dad, and he's watching like 8 different channels at the same time while he's using the gravity boots?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And at the time in the 80s when that came out, it was such a like, oh, in the future, you'll be watching 8 screens at once. And I was looking at my, you know, your browser tab. You have like 18 tabs open, and then you've got all these other videos in your queue. I'm like, oh, we're already doing that times 100. So we've already passed Marty McFly's dad.
I'm frequently on my laptop and then also looking at my phone, and my wife will just walk in and just like, Jack, too many screens. Come on. It's like, oh, I just feel like so pathetic when I have those little moments where I'm caught.
if you're having a good time, I don't think there's anything wrong with it because we all have different brains and different levels that we want to multitask. And I don't know, I kind of like having a lot going on.
Yeah,
I like having this audio playing and this visual going and reading this, and it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, it's not even having a good time though. You know, on the double screens, it's just like, wee. Oh, what happened? Fuck, 4 hours.
Yeah, I guess it is better to focus, but we just don't want to because maybe it triggers some scarcity, and we just try to avoid scarcity whenever we can. We're all about more.
Yeah,
more food, more booze, more content, more everything, and it's like, just read book. No, I don't want to read book. I want to have 100 things. I want to absorb the whole internet now.
You know, it's like, I think with lockdown, because we're currently in a lockdown at the moment in Australia. But yeah, it's a funny kind of, it's always a funny time of reflection, you know? You're forced to stop, work is put to a halt, and you have to kind of reflect. And it just like, I was just talking to my buddy the other day, like the amount of webs that are like designed to have us all addicted. Like the more I think about it, like first hurdle was exercise. Cool, I'm being lazy. I got to exercise. Second was like less time on your phone, and then there's coffee, and then there's porn, and then there's just like every single thing in our life. Like we are caught in this like carefully designed web of addiction on it's so much broader than I initially thought, and it can be overwhelming, but I don't know. Just like, we'll just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's our modern struggle.
Yeah.
It's our modern struggle, right? It's an abundance problem, whereas our ancestors had the scarcity problem of not having enough food and shelter and stuff. And of course, there's a lot of people without that now, but
yeah,
that used to be normal now. And now the normal is like, well, I can't stop interneting. I can't stop drinking. I can't stop, just too much. So the real challenge is to abstain from the thing that is ruining your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you guys, you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
You guys are back
I don't know
to business?
why though. Yeah. Not really. it is for a little bit. I think a lot of stuff is open. It's not what it was before, but I think the Delta variant is starting places to limit their capacity again, the mask mandates again, which is to be expected. I mean, most pandemics last 3 to 5 years, according to scientists that Shane talked to, and according to history books, I guess too. So I knew when everything was shutting down, I remember thinking like, this is at least 2 years. Just something in my body just felt it. I'm like, this is not 2 weeks. This is at least 2 years. And we were already disagreeing on the most mundane shit. And so imagine the disagreements, which I don't know what it's like there, because here we have the warring factions of the alt-right, the Trump people, the QAnon people, the ultra woke, the Portland protesters. It's kind of the Antifa, and you don't hear about it as much this year. But is there a similar sort of thing going on there? You know,
it's kind of funny. Like at the moment, I feel like things are really... things feel like the water's just simmering. It's just bubbling. Everyone seems like, it's been a year and a half or whatever. Everyone seems very agitated. It might just be my circles, but Facebook's a bit of a shitstorm at the moment. You know, it seems like
it's always been
people. Yeah, totally. But it's just like anti-vax, pro-vax, mental health, anti-vax, pro-vax, mental health. And just like, everyone just stop. Everyone's just projecting the advice that they need to take.
That could be a dance trend. Anti-vax, vax, mental health, anti-vax, mental health, death, mourn.
Totally. But yeah, it's strange. I mean, it's always weird because like right now it's a beautiful day and you go outside and it's like, that's just all we need. Take in the air, get a bit of sun, but and get offline because it's getting hectic. It looked like it was hectic in America for a long time. I mean, you guys had the added factor of the political, nightmare that was Donald Trump and all that. But, it's like, it's our turn.
Do you have a similar thing there? Because I remember hearing that there was some parallel between Australia and New Zealand where I think Australia currently has a populist elected prime minister, and then New Zealand has a gay DJ with like a wife that's a model or something, like some very cool leader for New Zealand, and then you've got the more right-leaning guy. And
New Zealand's leader Jacinda Ardern. I actually don't know thoroughly her politics, but she just seems like she ticks all the boxes of kind of like just a good feminine energy of what maybe the world needs. Just diplomatic, nice. She's young. I think, she's just had a kid and just seems to deal with things without politicizing them. But like, so our political system's just like bizarre. I mean, we elect parties, not leaders. There's a leader that we vote for, but so you elect the party. So we've had like a situation where we've had like 20 different leaders be like, one gets fired and then another one takes their place and then they get like kicked out. So we vote. I can't even remember the last person I voted for, but basically the current prime minister was not elected. He was just the prime minister before him. The party decided to kick him out of the job. So we've got this Pentecostal religious flog of a human running the country. So yeah.
What's his term? What's his term limit?
Man, I think it's like around every 4 years. I'm pretty like I'm glued to American politics, man. I don't know anything about my own country. It's quite pathetic.
Oh, just like us.
Yeah.
Or I mean, just like us with other countries. Yeah. They actually arrest you if you try to learn about other parts of the world and their politics. It's very frowned upon. They barely let us learn about now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the dumbness is such a point of pride. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
Like, what do you call it? You call it football? Haha, stupid foreigners. We don't care about soccer. I'm not even fully American. I mean, I'm Canadian. I'm American Canadian dual citizen. My parents are from Iran, so I've got like a little bit of everywhere. Not everywhere, I guess just 3 places. But
when did you get to America and LA?
I moved to America around age 10, 11 or so, when my dad changed jobs and also wanted a different scenery and stuff, wanted me and my brother to experience a different land and not grow up and be like kittens that were just sheltered off in one place. I think it was a good move. It's tough. Of course, moving is tough during puberty, but
yeah.
We moved to LA in 2013, I think, and have been here since. It goes by fast because there's no seasons. Every day is beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. LA is just constant.
Yeah, so it feels like 2014 to me, and then I look at the calendar. I'm like, oh, it's 2021. Good God, good God, man.
So was the move over to LA with your family, or was that like a comedy move?
Oh yeah, it was a comedy move. It was with my girlfriend, still my girlfriend. Lived together for over 8 years now. Love of my life. I love you so. Love of my life. And she wanted to move to either New York or LA. She's a comedy person as well, but on the industry side of things, like manager and booker and that kind of thing. And so we decided LA over New York because we wanted more space and it's nicer. And if you're going to pay $1 billion a month for rent, then you might as well do it in style as opposed to where there's rats and bad weather and stuff. But New York is, I mean, one of the greatest cities in the world too.
Yeah, both amazing. I can't imagine living in New York. Well, I guess Brooklyn would be awesome, but New York is just so expensive these days, and it's not a lot of bang for your buck, exactly. But the kind of romantic days of getting over there as an artist and being discovered, I feel like are long gone. That's a rich person's city. Yeah.
I mean, anything can happen online. Like you can become a TikTok star overnight if you get it just right. But also there's a lot of luck involved with that too. And I mean, I have some questions for you too, like in terms of like you have a beautiful art style and very unique and psychedelic and instantly pleasing to the eye.
Thank you,
do you struggle with the whole new world of online and how disposable it is? Like, oh, nice painting that you spent 52 hours on. I guess maybe I'll like it next time and that. Or do you do pretty well? Do you find that it's pretty easy for you?
Not really, man. I mean, it's weird. Like it's a love and hate thing with the whole online way of consuming art, because on one hand, no, like I can see so much art that would never ever have been able to see, and it's inspiring people. Like everyone's getting more inspired by consuming more art. It's wonderful. I feel like the art world needs some kind of, you know, overhaul where it's more accessible, and I guess Instagram kind of was that, but maybe it needs a more overhaul for like the whole buying thing as well. But yeah, and on the downside, it's like, you know, if you don't have 40,000 plus followers. I don't know how all these people have 40,000 followers. If you don't have 40,000 followers, you ain't shit.
Yeah. Do you have 40,000? What's your number
I got like
right now?
4,000. So
you have only 4? That's a shame.
Very far from. But
see, I consider you to be a better artist, like technically in terms of what you accomplish, as opposed to like just on a skill level, not even a value judgment or anything. But I have a bigger following because it's catered to that environment. And then there's people who are even less artistically skilled than me that have several million with just stick figures because it's, you know, relevant, or they got on the right.
But your art, you know, your art does some like different roles. Like you there's a direct kind of, I don't know. I find I just bought one of your books, by the way, the After Death one. So
really?
Waiting
Cool.
to receive that. Can't wait. But yeah, there's direct messages, there's direct like feelings, and there's excitement about your work. And like I said, like my first kind of impressions were like this "be here now" kind of spiritual teachings that are kind of directly transmittable through your works. Which and I was kind of wondering about that. Like I could sometimes think of one or two profound things to say. How do you like? Don't you just get constant, writer's block, creative block of like kind of knowing what message to then turn into a kind of visual poetry or something?
I think ideas are pretty abundant, actually. And I don't know if that's just what I have going on. Some people have different things that they have an excess of. I've never found myself to have a shortage of ideas. Like I can't say that they're all good ideas, but I always get some kind of download, and it deals directly with the unease that I'm feeling in that moment. So we all have unease in the morning, discomfort mentally, emotionally, spiritually, astrologically, everything. And the fix for it, or the perspective change that I need in that moment, just kind of appears. And sometimes it's in the form of a word or an image, and then I write it down, and sometimes I act on it instantly. Sometimes I put it away and then act on it in a month. And then sometimes a month later, I'm like, this is the most basic who cares statement ever. Why would I write we're all one? Who cares? Everyone knows that. It's not going to help anybody. But sometimes those ones that I think are very basic are the most popular too. So there you go. That's why it's good to have a partner or friend that you can show stuff to and be like, is this something? Is this any good? What do you think of this?
Yeah. Well, it kind of it seems like very fitting that you're, a comedian as well, because the way I hear you interact with Shane or just many other people on podcasts, extremely quick, really able to riff with the moment and stuff. And I guess you seem like you'd be a natural writer, and those kinds of more profound messages that you're kind of putting through your art, I could imagine them being from the same well as like looking for jokes or humor, but maybe just less humor on that one.
Yeah.
It's more just the essence of what you might try to get to with a joke. But
yeah, I feel that. I think I'm starting to, especially with the Shane podcast I do, it's called Mind Under Matter for the people, if I didn't mention the name of it, but it's me and Shane, we talk about a science concept every episode and just kind of riff about it. And really, it's just an excuse for two friends to hang out. But yeah, we approach it from the angle if he comes from the science background and then I come from the mystical, artsy background, and we see how we reconcile those two views. But I'm definitely feeling the comedy again. I feel like I got tired of comedy 2014, 15, started to become more philosophical, and then now philosophy is kind of burned out for me, and now I like the funny a bit more. Yeah,
lighten it up a bit, you know? Yeah, everyone needs to be a bit light. The kind of dynamic of your podcast is awesome, having that more science kind of founded Shane with, like you say, you're a bit more mystical. It really reminded me of a way more light-hearted version of this book that I read ages ago called War of the Worldviews. Have you heard of that?
No, but I love the title. Good play on the sci-fi movie,
basically,
or the sci-fi book.
Totally. It was two authors. One was Deepak Chopra, and the other was this science. Hold on, I've actually got it here. What was it? He is this guy Leonard Malodenov, who is he's a scientist. I can't quite remember whether he's like a physicist or whatever, but pretty much they just kind of battle out the ideas of like what is God, and I think Deepak Chopra is actually not the best representative of the spiritual side of the debate in that book, because I think the scientists kind of wiped the floor with him a bit. But
really?
But
he's good though. He's good mainstream kind of guy, because you'll see him on CNN and he's got the nice glasses with diamonds in it. I think I'm remembering him right.
Exactly.
No, I appreciate Deepak. Yep. I haven't thought of him in a decade, but I remember watching a talk where some math guy is like, I hear you talk about infinities, and I think you don't understand infinities. There's multiple types of infinities. And he's just like, there is one infinity and it is all infinities. And they're like, yes, but if you just take a look at my form, and then he's trying to come at it at the very hard science background. And he's trying to say like, look, bro, the infinite infinities, nasty infinity, not limited infinities. So I don't think, maybe that book you're talking about, War of the Worldviews, maybe they cannot be, one cannot beat the other. It is this Manichaean struggle where the dark and the light are forever in this endless circular argument where this, but what about this? Oh, but what about this? But what about this? And that's why there is anything, is because of the contrast.
It seems like such a Western approach as well, of like making it a war of the worldviews, like the kind of idea of like, you know, science and spirituality coexisting and actually having a beautiful harmony is completely absent from the entire approach there. But
oh yeah, it's all about the struggle. There's no ease. There's no letting. If both sides just let go, it would be the same thing, and you'd have a better time.
Exactly. Do you and
but we kind of?
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was going to say, but we just kind of like war. I was thinking about it, like even in our marketing language, you know, it's take advantage of this deal, like
combative,
beat the competition, all this. It's very violent language.
Yeah. Do you and Shane ever have kind of disagreements, or are there any like hiccups that you kind of have found along the, you know, because what you're about over almost 20 episodes in or more? 21.
Yeah, I think we've taped 22 at this moment, and now they haven't come out yet. But yeah, we're over 20 now. Mm-hmm. We disagree occasionally. We mostly agree. One point in particular, I remember the disagreement was, you know, he says that when you die, it's lights out because your brain isn't there to take in reality. So why would there still be reality if there's no brain? And then I come from the side saying that, you know, the band is not inside the radio. The radio is the receiver of the music, and you are the music, and that vibration is eternal. And you might, when you die, you might have everything erased. You don't retain this personality, this ego, but as an awareness, of course, awareness is eternal. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's not nothingness. There's awareness, and like it or not, you're always in awareness, even if it gets really strange after this incarnation or the next 100. So, and that's another one of those fun ones that you can just kind of go at, because it's not something you can prove, especially not in 3D in this incarnation. It's just more of a faith-based thing, but it's fun to argue about. I like it.
Yeah. I feel like I sit right in between like you and Shane. I've kind of been way more kind of on the spiritual kind of path in the past, and then I almost kind of thought it was all horse shit, and then it's just kind of like, well, but I'm weirdly always drawn to that kind of aspect, and just try and look to science to see, can they explain any of these freaky things like consciousness or dreams or like DMT? Can we please get some thorough investigation from science about DMT? What is going on? Why do we all see the same shit?
Yeah, that is a tricky one.
Why is there a carnival? so frequently. A carnival. I don't know. That's at least that's my experience at least.
Yeah, because maybe we think that the carnival was invented in the early, 1900s or something, but perhaps the carnival is this archetype that goes beyond any year and that we knew from over 5 million DMT eras ago.
Culture is not your friend. Excellent, McKenna.
I am not your friend. I am not going to play basketball with you. I'm taking my ball home.
It's funny, like I wish I'd love to talk to Shane about the kind of his I don't know if it's a kind of conflict where he has experienced the limits and the depths of the psychological DMT realm and had all the coincidences happen, but still fall back on, it's probably neurons firing off in our brain kind of thing, where it's just I don't know, it's an interesting way to see it. It's a very level-headed way of seeing it, but
I like it. I appreciate that he's holding that space and not even doing it to hold it, but that's who he is. Because why should he give up there and be like, well, it's done, it's magic? Like, why should you give up there? Like, keep looking at what the neurons are doing. And
totally. But the thing that annoys me is that anyone who claims that they know. So, you'll go on the other end of the scale, like a real hippie, trippy person who's a DMT lord that's just, labeled himself an urban shaman or whatever. And then they'll actually try and tell you what is going on. You're like, dude, you don't know shit, man. You're like, I don't know. Like, who are you?
Yeah. And behind all of that, like Ram Dass says, it's, we're all God, or meet everyone like they're God in drag. So I like to imagine that you're just in this giant movie theater by yourself. And then every single person you've ever met in your whole life is just someone on that movie screen. There's never been another being coming into the movie theater, sitting down next to you. It's all just been that, barrier between it, because you're the only person in your own head, even if you're trying to articulate it as well as you can. So when that person comes by and says that I know, that's just still another person on the movie screen saying that they know or that they don't know. So at the end of the day, there's just at the center of it all, your eyes.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. Just to go back, I just kind of lost my train of thought. What were you saying was your main disagreement? You and Shane's kind of outlook?
The main one was the whether there is an experiential reality following your death of this body. And then I always maintain the position that of course there is, because the universe, the multiverse, all existence, there was everythingness, and then there is the split into knowing the self. There is the self, and then there is the self-reflection. It splits into two, so one can know themselves, and then there's the split into infinite other aspects of experience, little jewels on Indra's net reflecting back the whole picture so that you can know yourself better. And I don't think there's an end to that. I think we might just grow in complexity forever, as crazy as that sounds, because why would the universe stop? Like, what is containing it? What is the farthest end of the universe? What's it expanding into? Or sorry, what is it expanding out into? Like, it might just be foreverness. It might be an illusion where it's actually very small but appears to be going forever, and on and on. Yeah. So I think that have you read The Law of One?
No.
The channeled text of the being Ra from the Egyptian days, the god Ra.
Okay.
It channeled through some lady in the 80s, and
I remember some hippies telling me about this book back in an art studio I used to have. Yep. It's good.
It talks about all paradoxes being reconciled, and as humans with our limited brain capacity, we don't really do well with paradoxes. We kind of say, oh, it's a paradox, therefore it's impossible, therefore this is just a model of things which cannot be. But perhaps the nature of reality is just so beyond even paradox that we can't even wrap our head around one pixel of what that actually means, because then it's true and false, and true false at the same time across every aspect of everything. And then what we're tuning into is the objective reality that we see right now. which that sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook too. I know that
No,
that
no,
really,
it seems like it resonates a lot actually. And
oh, good.
yeah, it's kind of funny just like thinking about all those kind of weird paradoxes of consciousness and kind of the way you're talking about like a awareness fractioning off and figuring out how to experience itself. It's like, it's funny that I can read a lot of those things. I can kind of understand them, but it's not until you have like, and I hate to just constantly pull it back to drugs, but drugs can really like what McKenna kind of says. It's like, if you can have that shortcut, why wouldn't you? You could dedicate your entire life to like deep medication, or you could like hit the on button and that can kind of give you a reason to inquire more, or it can completely destroy your life and everyone and everything you love around it. Either or.
You hear the story of the monk that spent like decades learning how to meditate and float and walk on water, and then goes to his master and goes, "Master, I learned, it's taken me decades, but I've learned to walk on water." And then the master says, "Yeah, but the ferry costs a nickel."
Yeah.
So he's saying like, why would you just not, I guess it could be seen as a pro-drug message, but drugs work for a reason. We're made of drugs. Like we're all holding right now. We've got DMT in the pineal gland. We've got cannabinoid receptors, and different foods we eat have different neurological states that are that we're put in as a result of it. So yeah, sometimes you might need the drug to unlock it instead of 1,000 hours of meditation.
Such a funny way society's kind of opinions of all these things are really changing right now, which is like, couldn't support wholeheartedly. Obviously, any abuse of any substance is not a good thing, but all these like, it just seems like psychology has been like at this kind of arrested developmental stage for a long time. Like, if there was any other science that had such like, the world is getting more and more mentally ill. And you know what I'm saying? Like if there was any other science that was kind of failing that catastrophically, and I'm not trying to shit on psychology because I've found it helpful for myself, having a psychologist, and I've seen heaps of people, but we're not really getting to the bottom of anything with psychology, are we? We might be like working through things collectively, but we're not really getting to the bottom of it. But I think this like shifted perspective of MDMA for helping trauma, mushrooms helping depression and self-realization. I mean, on and on and on. Ketamine. I mean, what is ketamine good for? It's good for fucking. I know it's good for a few things. It's good for good for kick-ons. But what are they using ketamine for? What are they? Because that's become quite popular in the States.
I think also for PTSD and depression. I think it's good at getting you to disassociate, which I loved that Ram Dass would address the word disassociate, because when he would describe the psychedelic experiences, he would say, well, a psychologist would call this disassociation, to which I would say, yeah. So he's like, why is disassociation like seen as less valid than just being in the same cage all the time? But yeah, I think if you can truly step out of yourself, you can see your problem differently, because we all do it with friends and family where they're stressing out about something that from our perspective is just the easiest thing. Like, just text them back this. What's so hard about it? And they'll mull over it for weeks because they're on the field and we're up in the bleachers yelling at the person with the ball that, oh, come on, it's easy. I could do it better than you could. And
right. Totally.
Yeah. To step outside of it and look at it and be like, oh, that makes way more sense.
I do often think like there's such a frustrating thing of being trapped in the sober mind. And, like, why can't our minds naturally, they can, and I guess that's what psychology can help with. But why do we get stuck in those ruts? Why can't we have that ability to just to kind of step out and see things outside? It seems like a thing that the psychedelic substance have a unique ability to, like, you meet people that are so stuck in their ego, so stuck in like being right. So there's so many people that are so right, and they can't see how Rum Dust, again, a lot of Rum Dust references, but he says, I'd rather be free than right. And actually kind of humbling yourself and realizing that maybe this argument isn't worth winning, because I'd rather everyone have, be in harmony right now. But people get so stuck in that kind of thing. And it's not until you can like have that jolt, whether it's a chemical jolt where you're just like, oh, I've been a dick and everyone else knows it. Everyone knows. Everyone's aware that I'm being a dick. And I thought I was right.
You ever hear Patrice O'Neill's thing? He said, have your opinion, but don't let your opinion have you.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't heard that.
I like that one. So it's like, you can believe whatever, but don't cling to it so hard that, when you're having a discussion with someone, when they're talking to you, then you're formulating the strategy of how you're going to beat whatever point they're shooting your way, instead of actually listening and taking them in. That's a tough one. I think.
Oh, we're all guilty
particularly of it. For men. It might even not be a gender thing, but I feel like we're more guilty of that.
Yeah. I definitely am.
Because we're the best and we got to win.
Odor rules. But yeah, it's and actually it's like kind of back to like the other point where I'm saying we all project the advice we need to take. I've noticed is just a real obvious thing right now. I'm probably saying all this, and I've probably got a bunch of friends hearing this right now and just thinking, dickhead, take your own advice.
Oh, at least your friends listen to your podcast. That's pretty cool.
They're dropping off by the dozen, but yeah. No.
My friends are like, oh, you do a podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, you exist? Yeah, I exist.
Yeah. How long have you been doing the other one, Rainbow Brainskull?
I think 2018 is when that one started.
Right.
Yeah. So that one's kind of sporadic. I'd love to have you on that, actually, now that we're here.
It would be an honor.
Yeah, you're a great podcast host. I like your hostingness, and I like your art style. So it's like a good mix of both. And then I can aim the questions more at you.
Right,
I haven't been doing that enough here.
I'm slowly figuring out great ways of just like deflecting the questioning back on the other person as soon as I get uncomfortable. So, but yeah, your kind of guest choice on Rainbow Brainskull is far more like a lot of comedians, but also like artists and stuff. And I've heard a couple where I think there's this like one girl, P the Fairy and stuff. Is that her name? Or Fury?
Love P. Yeah.
Yeah, like quite a lot. You seem to have a lot of people around that are pretty in that new agey kind of space. Like there's a lot of astrology references, a lot of healing, kind of cosmic work. Kind of in your
human
circle.
Design.
Yeah. So is that
human design, aliens, ascension, 5D downloads? I'm in for it.
You're in for it. Yeah. Do you ever have like moments where you're just like, I don't know about that, or you just like, bring it on? What else have you got?
In the moment, I find myself buying into it on the episode, but then weeks after the episode, then I just kind of lose my connection to it and be like, well, no, that's just another game that we play, like with, which Harry Potter character are you? Which Star Wars character are you? You can see astrology that way too, where it's like, no, it's a fun game we play, but I don't know how real it is. Actually, with astrology, it does resonate as true, and tarot resonates as true. The more I'm exposed to it, the more the things happen. It's not science. It's a divination technique, so it's not this empirical, testable thing, but it's more of a mirror or something that you use to kind of see where you're struggling at the moment, or where you need to be putting your focus. But for the most part, I like all of the astrology, the human design, the channeling. I want to have more channelers on. I think channeling is legit. I don't know how to convince anyone of it, but just when, not all channelers, but some of them, when I hear, I'm like, I don't know how they're getting that information, but they are channeling that being that used to live.
I thought that was all bullshit until I heard an episode of Duncan Trussell Family Hour with, I think his name was Paul Selig.
Paul Selig. That guy. You are love and light. you are love, and like the door is open. The door is open. You are free to walk through. You are free to walk through the door. Yeah.
There's
He's
something
great.
like hypnotically jarring about that guy. I recommend anyone go and listen to that episode. Like, I was pretty, I mean, because I guess the things he's kind of saying they seem really spot on. They seem really prophetic almost, very...
The best line he has, or my favorite line, is the object of fear is to claim more of itself.
Right.
So when you're experiencing fear, its game is to be like a weed and grab more fear and things. So you have to let it go.
I mean, if that guy is a con man, he has perfected like a really specific set of skills and drenched with like infectious wisdom.
Yeah.
I always wonder about like cult leaders like that. So like there's this one cult leader called like Shoko Asahara, who was this Japanese cult leader and they ended up releasing sarin gas on the Tokyo subways in the 90s. It was a really horrific cult. But like all the ingredients, same with Jim Jones, all the ingredients of them building that cult, they had to have all this knowledge of yoga, of spirituality. Like, how do you manage to attain all those like fundamental spiritual lessons and then still manage to go evil with it? It blows my mind.
The dark side.
Yeah.
How did Count Dooku and Anakin Skywalker go dark side? I know those cheesy examples, but yeah, it's probably the temptation of using it for power and self-pleasure probably gets more tempting the more knowledge you acquire. And go ahead.
No, I guess like that's the thing, because I always thought like maybe if you see someone that you might see as evil or something, maybe they just never really got the messages or something. But maybe even through the ascension of this like wise knowledge, you're still actually a hairline away from making a really bad choice and using all that good for manipulative purposes.
Yeah, because we're still the animal. As long as you're talking to a physical being on this world, even if they're a guru channeler, you're still also talking to an animal. And we still have the problems of the flesh, which the flesh makes us crave, all sorts of different powers and pleasures and things that we might sacrifice others' well-being for in the moment if we don't have, if we're not really tuned in. The law of one would talk about how it's the whole existence is comprised of two types of beings, like two types of aliens, humans, everything. It's beings in service to one, the whole thing, and then there's beings in service to self. So when people talk about the negative aliens, those are the ones in service to self, and then the good aliens see the whole thing as one, and they're about lifting yourself, you, this person over here, and on and on. Oversimplistic way of looking at it, but still fun.
So what's kind of your take from all these strange, hippy dippy interpretations of the soul, of spirituality? I mean, to think that consciousness goes beyond the human life, there must be. Does that mean that there's a God? Do you believe that there's a God? Kind of. What's your interpretation of God?
God is oneness. God is the whole thing, not simply the light and then the thing and of course everyone has always written off the man with the beard. Like, let's not even talk about man with the beard or the elephant with multiple arms or even a Star of David light thing. I'm talking the whole thing with all the ugliness in it and the ugliness you haven't even imagined. It's all God, and it's still being grown, perhaps. Like, we are all different witnesses to God, and it goes on forever and it grows forever. And Arthur C. Clarke would say that perhaps man's destiny is not to discover God, but rather to create him. And we're making this thing even more complex as we go along. Like, we know technology is we know the downsides to it, but it's not going to stop. We are going to keep making the processor power faster and doing more social media stuff. It's not going to slow down. It only gets more complicated. So I think we are God, and God is oneness. It's the whole thing. And that's why it also does not exist, because everythingness and nothingness are the same thing. You can't talk about everythingness without there also being a nothingness to contrast it to. So
maybe
it's the whole thing.
A human's a drop of water, and God would be the ocean, I guess. Source, or I see it more like a sun. I like to visualize it like a sun.
Yeah, because it gives light to everything, and no energy loss for the most part. I don't know, it's an interesting one, but the word is so charged with all these different meanings that I don't even like to use God. A lot of people don't like God or spirit, but I think there is a universal wholeness, and there is an awareness that can be. I've felt it before. I've only felt it once.
Just going to ask, have you had any like religious moments? Not religious meaning like founded religion, but like a real contact moment through psychedelics or through spirituality?
The oneness feeling, like earlier when I described being alone in a movie theater and everyone you've ever met before is just someone on the screen. No one ever walks in. That feeling, but where there's not even a theater, where and it's not a belief. It was in the moment. I knew it to be like that is the perspective of the one whole being that has not split off into infinite other beings yet. It's very lonely. It's not sad. It's not crying. But the closest word I can come to it is just lonely, where it's like, oh, I really am the only awareness, the whole single point of consciousness that the whole Big Bang emerged from, and the big crunch will suck back into and spit out in another direction.
The big crunch.
So yeah, Big Bang, big crunch, there's no free lunch.
Did you ever watch The Mighty Boosh?
It's been so long.
Nothing of the crunch.
Yeah, Mighty Boosh was on Comedy Central, I think, or
really?
BBC, or maybe both.
Yeah. Oh, it's just that one line. You know nothing of the crunch. So good. So good. Love that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. But it's easy to fall into the belief that like the universe is dumb, so we're these monkeys that have intelligence, and maybe octopuses and dolphins have intelligence, but the universe as a whole, it's dumb. It's just, it doesn't think about itself. It just expands out. And then this little mush that's in the skull, this is smart until it dies. But that's where intelligence is. And then everything outside of it, there's no intelligence. That seems like so wrong. I can't even begin to describe how wrong that feels. Of course, there's higher intelligence. Of course, there's interconnectivity and self-reflection on levels that we can't observe. We are a tapeworm compared to like a galactic consciousness. Yeah. But a tapeworm is still alive, and perhaps maybe doesn't self-reflect, but maybe an ant kind of does, or I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, love it. And that's the thing where I think I'm so like torn between my beliefs, because these days I tend to try and be more skeptical of these kinds of things. But then I've got these really bizarre beliefs as well about spirituality, DMT gods, alien life out there, which completely contradict my skepticism to any kind of nonsensical channelers, or tarot doesn't mean anything, astrology doesn't mean anything, but DMT gods do talk to me, and they know what's up, and like, okay, buddy. Okay, you druggo. But
and you're higher on the hierarchy than even those DMT gods, whether you know it or not yet. Like there is a spark in you that one day will be like, oh, I thought those DMT gods were huge. Turns out those were little characters I invented to have a fun journey to escape from my even more limited perspective.
Maybe
to escape from even that.
They're just bugs in the spiritual world.
Could be.
We're just like popping into the ant level, or the praying mantis level, which is commonly seen. And sometimes you see the cat, and that's the level of intelligence that they are in comparison to the bigger god.
Ooh, I love the cat.
Cracked it.
Yeah. Yeah, let's transcribe that, sell it, go on tour. We're the next Deepak.
Yeah, totally. Oh, awesome. But yeah, man, it's a great mix, kind of having those like ideas bounce off each other between you and Shane in a friendly, loving, non-combative way. You can tell that you guys have got a great kind of energy and mutual respect. It's great. Highly recommend the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend it too. I think we have great chemistry, and I think it's the #1 show. And all the listeners, go check it out.
Fuck yeah, yeah. But with your so kind of when you moved to like LA, and I assume as most artists are, were you kind of the type that was drawing from a very young age? Was that kind of your hope and dream? So when did the comedy aspect come into it? Because you seem like you're a master of many things, and you know, sometimes I can get like paralyzed by a new project because you feel like you might be giving up on an older dream.
All the time. I have so many projects at various stages of completion, like 70% there that I've abandoned, and now the world has moved on, and like I just have to kind of leave it abandoned. But when did I get into the comedy thing? The stand-up comedy thing was first explored in the summer of 2007 when
Still
I've
seems
always
so
loved,
recent.
yeah, doesn't it? 2000. I mean, Conan O'Brien, remember, he would say the year 2000 because it would be such a futuristic sounding year. And now there's been people who've like been born and died and like had a kind of full life in between year 2000 and now. Like they could have, you know, got a driver's license, fallen in love, had their heart broken, lost their virginity, had their first psychedelic experience, fall in love again, give birth to their first kid, only to like they step on a landmine in Afghanistan, and that was their life. And they were born in 2000. There's people that have lived full lives since then. Meanwhile,
that's a spin out to think like.
Yeah. But I started in 2007. It was following a DWI, a drinking and driving arrest.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it, and I didn't hit anybody or even crash the car. I just kind of went through a yellow light that turned red, and then was pulled over. And I was so stupid because they asked if I'd been drinking, and I said, "Oh, I've just had a couple." And you're not supposed to say you've had a couple. You're supposed to say, "I've never drank in my life. I'm going to church. I love the police. Blue Lives Matter." You're supposed to say that. You're not supposed to say like, "I just had 6 beer." So, you know, that was a big traumatic event, being in the jail and stuff. So I really had to.
Do they breathalyze you on the spot in America, or do they make you do the touch the nose thing and the alphabet?
They do both. You can in the States, or at least in Texas at the time, you can deny any test, but that goes on your record then. And then they just book you, and you get a lawyer, and then the lawyer has to defend like why you would have said no to those tests. So then they can't prove you were drunk, but also the evidence shows that you probably were if you chose to not take those tests. But I chose to take the tests. I just hit the limit, so I was just at that limit where they could arrest me.
And they took you to jail because you were just
I went
on
to
the
jail.
Limit. What's the
for
limit?
Like
0.05?
0.08.
Oh, I think it's 0.05 in Australia.
Oh, they lowered it? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
No, at the time it was 0.08. They took me in. No idea when I was getting out, and got out after 24, 25 hours or something. And then following that and all the money that that took to deal with legally and get my license back, I was very hit existentially and was like, what's the thing I really want to do? Because I'm not just going to go out to bars and drink and just work at job. Like, this is stupid. I should actually make something of myself and pursue something scary. And me and my friend Mike Sears, we just both concluded like, well, I've always wanted to try stand-up. What if we researched it? What if we looked and checked out the open mic, just stepped in? We don't have to tell anybody we're doing this. And from that grew into like, okay, I'll try my first set, and then I won't tell anybody I'm doing it. I didn't even tell a single person other than my friend Mike for like 6 months. I was just going to open mics and trying stuff. I didn't want to make the mistake of, invite your friends and family, like, hey, laugh at me because you know that you trust me already. I wanted no trust. I wanted to start from the bottom. And from that, you grow. I was obsessed with it. I would go every day to a show to try the mic or at least watch people.
Yeah, so you just sit in the back for a lot of the time before you kind of and just see how just observe, take it all in.
Yeah.
And man, it sounds like the most terrifying thing to do.
It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, one could argue that there is more terrifying things like big wave surfing or being in combat. Like those are probably scarier, but as far as like the low level things, public speaking is very scary, especially when people judge you, because this is not a TED talk. This is not a speech at a funeral. This is people with drinks on the table who want to laugh, and sometimes their arms are crossed. Sometimes there's a guy in the audience who's jealous, like is there with a date, doesn't want to laugh at someone on stage because they're the big man.
Yeah.
Or maybe a lady that wants attention too. But yeah, I just kind of grinded at that for a decade, and throughout that decade, I grew from an open micer to a host to a feature act to a headliner, got festivals, got TV appearance.
This was all in
Shane.
LA? You started in
No,
LA?
this was in Texas actually, right. But LA was after 2013. But I met Shane in Texas, and that's where the friendship started and grew from there. So a lot of my best friends just met through comedy. Have lost a lot of friends in comedy. There's been people who've killed themselves. There's people who've gotten cancer. It's been wild, and it's from all walks of life. It's
a loaded industry, or loaded community, I guess, you know?
Yeah. An optometrist will go up right after a meth addict, will go up right after someone who was in a gang, who's then the marketing guy is next. But in the comedy world, you just see each other as all comedians. So I like that.
It's fascinating kind of with the massive rise of podcasting, how much of a window that the rest of the world gets into the comedy world. I thought Pete Holmes did a wonderful job with this show Crashing.
He's a friend, right? You're friends with Pete?
through the Rum Dust community. Pete and Val, they're the
awesome.
best. But yeah, it was so much of it's relatable. I found like through his show. I don't know how accurate that is. I imagine it's pretty accurate just by, you know, the kind of what do they call it when you're kind of on the corners trying to get a set, barking, exactly. I mean, so many parallels to like the fine art world of going to these like shows and trying to rub shoulders with the right people, and then you've got like the kind of the commercial galleries, then you've got the alternative galleries, and it seems like a similar kind of dynamic with the club comics and the alt scene and all that kind of stuff, and just such a mishmash of people. It's a fascinating world to kind of get sucked into. And it's funny for non-comedians to kind of really nerd out on that world that has nothing to do with them. But it does. It brings everyone laughter and joy. You know, it has everything to do with them.
And not even just that it brings them laughter, but I feel like we've all been funny before in the context of your friends or family. So everyone thinks that they could do it. Maybe not professionally, but everyone at some point thinks like I could do that a little bit. I could be funny. I was killing it that night at the office, so I could do it. But then they neglect the hidden part of that, which is your nerves, like what happens to your stomach and your gut and your eyes when the bright lights are on you and pressure is on. So
was that a hurdle that was quite difficult for you to overcome, where just being like, hey, I'm funny amongst my friends, to I can hold a room and then try and make money out of this?
Yeah, it was a medium hurdle, because I'm not particularly like afraid of public speaking, but I'm also not, I wasn't a natural, like have no nerves type of person. I remember like, oh, wow, this is a weird feeling coming up. Like I've got to callous that somehow and learn to do it. And then there's some people I knew that the nerves would kill them. They would just have a panic attack before their name was called up. And especially if someone's killing before you, or they're famous and you're about to go up after them, after the audience they already liked the person before, and like coming up next to the stage, new person who you don't trust yet. And you're like, oh shit, I'm that. And then you're in your head, and it's a whole thing. But I feel like, you're right. The world does know a lot more about it now because of Crashing and podcasts and all sorts of other.
when I went over
explorations.
When I went over to the States, I got to go to the Comedy Store and I think the Comedy Cellar in New York as well, because just kind of seeing what it's all about firsthand, and it seems like really rich, fertile waters to kind of a really rich training ground in American with comedy. I'm sure there's some shitty clubs too, but the caliber is there's a lot of greats. There really are. I think Australia doesn't quite have that. It's definitely got a comedy scene, but it doesn't have that rich, stand-up comedy kind of culture here. We've got them, but there's only a few real kind of household names. I'd say a lot of it's kind of safe from my perspective.
Arj Barker.
Oh, he's
Arj
great. He's
awesome. Is
awesome.
American though.
Yeah, he's American. You got Jim Jeffries and stuff. He's great.
Oh Jim Jeffries
leans
is big here.
Really leans into the Aussie kind of Ocker accent, bogan kind of thing. But he's awesome. I love him. Great stuff. But,
the States are the number one still. I think not that there's not great comics from everywhere, but in general, like you can tell. You can tell where the best ones are coming from.
Right.
Not saying I'm it, not saying I'm close to even being it, but just I don't know why that is. Maybe it was born here, maybe because the Americans are stupider, and maybe that helps with it. It just feels like when I watch a lot of like stand up from the UK, a lot of it just seems like it's all sarcasm.
Right.
That's the whole thing, and there's not enough. And this might be a limited data set, and the more outlandish ones are not being showcased on Netflix or even YouTube or something. But so far, it just feels like, and maybe just because US has been doing it longer, maybe I'm biased because I'm exposed to more of it, but seems to be the feeling in general that's somebody's got to be number one. Yeah.
Are there any comedy greats or real influences that kind of made you just be like, yep, that's my guy?
I love of dead people. Let's see. I love George Carlin. I love Mitch Hedberg. I love Maria Bamford. She's still alive. Love Bill Burr. Still alive. Love Brent Weinbach. He's my number one. Still alive. See some Rodney Dangerfields. Wonderful. Stephen Wright. Wonderful. Joan Rivers. I mean, who could not love Joan Rivers?
She's
great. Too big to sometimes even list as a favorite, but she's dead, so that's okay. You can list her as a favorite.
George Carlin,
Eddie Izzard.
Oh, he's great.
Eddie Izzard. There's, so many good ones, and just I love when someone is in their own lane, their own perspective, like where instantly that sounds like a Hedberg joke, that sounds like a Bill Burr rant, sounds like a Maria Bamford character.
Yeah, George Carlin, I always just loved watching his stuff, but always felt like you need to take a break from Carlin. He's got the best points and the best rants, and his kind of loathing of general like humanity is just like, there's so many moments people are like, yes, he said what we're all thinking, but sometimes I feel it can just like, all right, like I need to. It's heavy stuff. He was asked, I saw like there's this one thing that he said in an interview that's kind of always stuck with me that I keep coming back to, which he was asked, how do you kind of, I guess, reckon with like the horrors of the world and humanity? And he just kind of says, disengage and become a spectator. If the human experience is a freak show, and if you're born in America, you got a front row seat, and it's just like, just become a spectator. And like, that's a great coping strategy, but it's not an answer for me. I need more. You can't just, if we all just become spectators, we give up, It's
it's not a life philosophy. It's more of it's a fun line to say in the moment. And perhaps that was his perspective, and he had a lot of trouble with the IRS. Like they always were getting him with taxes and back owed money, and was under attack and arrested for saying dirty words. So he had a specific relationship to the government to where he probably felt like there is no changing this thing. The the government or politics is just the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. You're not changing it with your vote, on and on. So I could see why he had that perspective. But yeah, it's certainly most people should not adopt that perspective. You should probably try to change things where you can touch it. Of course, doesn't mean just post memes angrily on Facebook. But yeah, if you can make the world a little better in your surroundings, politically or artistically, then you should do it.
I mean, hey, he got a lot of people thinking about a lot of important stuff, and you know, he's one of the greats. You know, that's I wouldn't dare criticize, even though I just kind of did, but I did.
Yeah, Carlin and Pryor. That's really what the conversation normally is about.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
Like people love Lenny Bruce and stuff, but it's always like, yeah, Carlin Pryor. That's the crux of the biscuit.
And Bill Hicks, of course.
Oh, Bill Hicks. Yes, of course. Stanhope.
It's quite challenging watching, like, if you watch Bill Hicks, like, bombing or losing it, it's pretty, like, there's some pretty fucked shit of Bill Hicks out there.
Yeah. You're a cunt. You're a fucking cunt with just a hole in between your legs, and that's why you have to yell because you're stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
He would say.
Totally.
He would go off.
He's good. Even that one of his most famous stands up, he does that one way too long thing that goes on and on about Pig Boy or whatever the fuck it was. You know, the one where he gives this really great, profound, the world is like a amusement park, up and down, around and around, thrills and chills and blah, 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 all that stuff at the end. But yeah, there's a good chunk of that stand-up that's pretty challenging stuff, but I think the good outweighs the bad. So
yeah, and he wasn't the funniest. He was profound and like a brilliant thinker, and it's crazy to think that I'm older than him now. I think he died in his early 30s, right? So,
wow.
And I always think about these people as they're older than me. They were 50 or 40 or something. And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm older than Jimi Hendrix. I'm older than Kurt Cobain. I'm older than Jim Morrison. I'm older than
Tupac was like
Bill
26,
Hicks.
wasn't he?
Tupac, yeah.
Like all those videos of Tupac, he's like in his 20s.
26, 27, something like that.
Yeah, 27, I think. Yeah, it's really hard to
the 27 club.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I just always see myself as whatever age, like 15 or I'm 20 or something. But
yeah, we continually see ourselves as young, but yeah, the bellies. This lockdown has really started to show the slowing down of my metabolism. That's for sure. It's the beginning of the end right now. So awesome. Ramin, man, just smashed an hour and a half, dude. I think this friendship speed date went well.
I liked it. You can keep the whole thing. You can even keep the part about the pedophile joke at the beginning if you want to. I don't think it'll hurt his feelings. I think he's probably gotten it before. Yeah. And I don't think I had any hatred towards the guy. I just thought it was so funny that the first podcast I picked, that's how you introed it. And I'm I'm introing every podcast I have from now on. Like, the following is a Nazi sympathizer who
I think anyone willing to listen to that pedophile episode must at least see the weird gray area of that topic. Otherwise, they just turn it off, you know?
Yeah. Did you get heat for it? Do you get people reaching out? Like, why are you saying?
I don't have a big enough audience to get heat for anything, which is
too small to cancel.
That's it. But no, actually, I was surprised. I was a bit nervous, but everyone was very like. I got a lot of the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. Good work. So yeah, it's funny. Like, why was I even nervous about it? You know, that's just someone's existence. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous listening to it. I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't airdrop into the neighbor's TV or something.
There were some uncomfortable bits in that. Let's not lie. But yeah, you know. Well, thanks for listening.
But just showing you what the world is made of, and that there's impulses within people, and they don't act on it, and that says something. I mean, if they're telling the truth, I imagine they are telling the truth.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I mean, I just like the I'm just very attracted to the weirder corners of the world, you know, without actually, hopefully, not contributing to too much weird. But yeah, you know, there's a reason we all love like true crime and those weird Louis Theroux things, or Vice docos, like all the weird Vice docos, like the that church with the family, that, you know, the God hate fag signs and everything. Like we're all extremely attracted to the weird.
Yeah,
it's
this is not a G-rated movie that we live in. This is a XXX movie, and just we're choosing to look at what parts. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, the news is always far more disturbing than the worst horror film you can find. But anyway, there's good too, and you are part of that good, Ramin, and I appreciate you.
Yes.
Dude, you're a legend, man. I can't wait to just work through more of Rainbow Brainskull. Everyone listen to Rainbow Brainskull and Mind Under Matter podcasts. Both are amazing. And do you have anything else? Like, how can people get your books and your art?
Just go to rainbowbrainskull.com or go to raminnazer.com. That's got all my work on it. You can read the books for free, and you can buy a physical copy if you'd like a physical copy. And I'd love to have you on the podcast too, so that could be an episode that the listeners can look forward to.
I accept.
Once we get that scheduled and taped. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I thought this went by like that.
Yeah,
it was
man.
A wonderful time.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Take it easy.